Here, we give that to you. So I started this journey maybe about 9 years ago now. I picked up a pastel for the very first time when a friend of mine said, you know, want to take a class? And I went, yeah. I had never painted since I was a kid. My mom was a painter, and I used to watch her do stuff, and I think I just absorbed it through my skin. But because she was a painter, I didn't want to interfere with her world or compete with that. So it wasn't till after she passed away that I thought, well, yeah, I kind of want to try. And it was like somebody flipped a switch in my brain. I went, oh, I love this. I want to do this. I want to do more of this. So that's how I ended up on this journey, and I have not looked back because I absolutely love working with pastels. And I've yet to find one thing that I want to do more than the other. So like Letty said, I like to do landscapes, and I love to do people and animals and flowers and anything that comes across my pretty much my vision. So I think we're going to do the slideshow first, right?
Right.
Okay.
Just gonna run through them.
This is a few of the rocks. I can't see anything. Let's try this again. Can you see it all?
The chair's in front of the bridge. Thank you.
Better?
Yes. Thank you.
The last Enchanted Colors show, her painting was the first painting to sell. So,
Oh, they look really different that big, don't they?
What paper do you typically use?
UArt 500 is my favorite, kind of my go-to. I've been experimenting a little bit lately with some of the other pastel boards. Boy, they sure save a step trying to mount it, and I like that. But the grit is different, and so I'm having to adjust a bit. Please ask me questions at any point in time in this.
Are you doing these for photographs?
Yes.
Do you play with the photographs before you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you do?
I do. I'm a pretty good photo editor. I'm a terrible photographer, but I'm a pretty good editor.
Uh-huh.
So I will edit them to please myself, mostly, in terms of composition, even color saturation. I can play with it a little bit. If I know that I want to go a certain direction, I'll lean it that way in my editor.
Where are these rocks located?
All over the Southwest. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not a very good photographer, but I love to take photos. In that everywhere I go, I'll stop and take photos. I stopped and took photos on my way down today. Just because that's, they're everywhere. The rocks in this part of the world are amazing to me.
Do you have a special camera you use?
My telephone. Yeah, like I said, it's pretty simple. If it's complex, I'm like, not for me. I have a show currently hanging in Durango. There are 33 paintings hanging up there. That we hung it opened up last weekend. And I sold 3 paintings on that day, so that was fun.
Is it in a gallery?
It is in a gallery.
The name?
Create Art and Tea.
Could you send something for the newsletter? I'll put it in member news.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
How long will it be up there?
Till the end of August.
I'm sorry, when?
End of August.
August.
Yeah.
Do you have a brand of pastel you prefer?
I started, because I'm from Denver originally, I started falling in love with Terry Ludwig, of course. How could you not?
To do that, you'll need to be on.
Um, but I've sort of branched out since then and looked at different ones, and currently I'm in love with Blue Earth. I just love the quality of them and the yeah.
Do you have a whole set of colors?
I wish. No, my kids are always like, "Do you want pastels again for your birthday?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, and Christmas and Mother's Day and anything else I can get away with."
So what are the size of those paintings about like that, or they just run these gamut of?
This is a pretty good size for me. I do this. I just recently finished a piece that was 30 by 36. That was the biggest piece I'd ever done. I was like, I don't know how to frame this.
What size is that one?
This is 12 by 16.
12 by 16. Do you do other paintings often or no?
Yeah. So I'm going to show you.
Okay.
I'm going to show you the process. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Any other questions before I do that? Okay. So I used to get really intimidated in how to put an image, a photographic image, on a piece of paper and then figure out what to paint. And my friend just taught me how to just grid it out. And that like transformed my thinking. And then all of a sudden I went, oh, I can do this because now I can lay it out and figure out how to make that work. So just from my home printer, I feel like I'm on the wrong side, Nicholas. I'm going to move over here. Now am I in everybody's way again?
No.
If I sit?
No.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great.
So on a home printer, I'll just print out the photograph. First, just by itself, and then I'll go in my phone to Photo PS. What do they call it? Photoshop. And you can manipulate that photograph and put a grid on it. And you can put that grid on it in such a way that it'll translate to the size of the paper you're using. That's a wonderful tool. I still have to divide it by 3 sometimes and make it work, but at least I've got a start. And so I can take this image and I'll start and put my grid on the paper and then draw the contours of the image over that grid so that I know that this section becomes this section and I can translate it accurately. Now, I might decide to leave something out. That person right there is not in my painting. You don't get to be there. Or I might change the color, or I might change something that's too complex. This looks pretty complex, but in my mind, I then know where everything is. I can figure it out. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I start with this. Once I get to this point, I'm going to mess you guys up. Maybe I can just do it easy. I'm just going to hold it up there. How's that? So what I've done here is I've blocked in my basic shapes and colors and values. So I have a pretty good idea where everything goes. Basic colors, basic big shapes, no detail yet. And then I fix that with the casein fixative. Then I go back in and I redraw those contour lines with a white pastel pencil so that I know exactly where I want to be with stuff. And sometimes the lines are not going to correlate exactly with the blocking, but at least I can reorient then. Does that make sense too? Okay.
So
Questions?
Is this a finished product?
This?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
This was just a stepping stone so that I could show you what my process is.
And so this has got a spray of casein on it?
Once the color was down in those blocks, I sprayed it, dried it, and then went back in with a white pastel pencil to get my shapes redrawn.
What's the fixative you use?
It's
Spectrafix?
Spectrafix, thank you.
What is it?
Spectrafix.
Okay.
And so will you paint on top of this?
Normally I would, yes.
Okay.
I did it, I stopped here because I wanted you to see it. I wanted to be able to show it to you so that you weren't going, what are you talking about? And it would become a little bit clearer. Yeah.
Interesting.
Does that make sense to everybody so far?
Yeah.
Okay. Now comes the challenging part.
So Juanita, when you say that you block in the colors on that, the thing you just held up, are you using like alcohol or anything to like wash it in? Or
No.
is it just okay.
I just use, I tend to grab harder soft pastels. And then, in my other life, I wear gloves all the time, so I always wear gloves. Then I take my glove and I literally just smear it in. I push that into the paper so that I've got, if you just go across it, you've got some of that paper that's going to show through. What I want are blocks of color. And so I'll take my glove and I'll mush it in there, sometimes with my glove, sometimes with a brush, but I'll just get it so that I can seal it. And then I basically start again from scratch with the drawing on top of that. Yes, I knew you were going to do that. Back up. And then I did the same thing. I got to this step, and then I spent several more hours getting to here. But this is still not finished because I left one whole side finished so that you could see my process. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I wish somebody had showed me this stuff better. This was a lot of trial and error for me in a lot of ways of going, how do people do this?
So you figured it out yourself?
Some of it I got trained to do. Some of it, the gridding and that part was in the beginning. But then taking classes from people, everybody does it different. Everybody does it uniquely. So I've kind of created what works for me, this process.
Is there an art association in Aztec area that you would be going to take classes?
Not so much in Aztec. There's a small gallery there. There's a group of folks that do studio tours that I will be a part of this year. But Durango is a much bigger town. It's a much more art kind of focused.
Yeah.
And so there's a Durango Art Center up there. There are lots of galleries. There are lots of opportunities for teaching or for learning, either one.
What month will your studio tour be?
It's in September, I think, towards the end of September. I think. One step at a time. getting that show hung took me forever, and I had 3 shows to do in 3 months, and I was hustling, and 4 births. So I was trying to just get one thing done and then the next thing done, compartmentalize a bit. Okay. Questions so far? So I do a whole combination of soft pastels that basically are dependent on what my palette is. You can see that my palette is pretty warm with some coolness to it. So rather than bring my entire pastel set, I just picked out what I was already using. And hopefully we can make that work.
Please make sure that you get your information in our newsletter about where your shows are. I think that would be wonderful because some of us would like to see Eve's going to Durango.
It's a wonderful trip. It's a beautiful drive.
Yes, it is. So if you would put that in our newsletter, that would be helpful for us to know what's happening.
What are you doing now, Juanita? Sure. Well, and there's always stuff going on. So, yes, I'd be happy to do that. I have a adult son who lives with me, who is my primary critiquer. And he will come upstairs where my studio is, and my studio is about a quarter of the size of this space. It's tiny. Tiny. And he'll look at it and he'll go, well, that's not right. Can you be a little more specific? And I hope I don't offend anybody, but he'll come along and he'll go, that's a dick rock. That's a dick rock. That one over there is a vag. And I'm like, well, it's kind of what I do, that's sort of appropriate, isn't it? And he'll be like, no, Mom, it doesn't look right. Okay. And then I can't not see it. I didn't see it before, and then I can't not see it. So it's just right there in front of my eyes the whole time.
Well, at least it's before it's hanging in the show.
I know. Well, every now and then one gets through.
Plus, a lot of times I'll see faces in rocks or clouds, and it's like, once you see it,
you can't not see it. It's true. But seeing it, you can look at your work and look at it, and sometimes I just have to stop, and I have to put it away, and then I get it out again, and then I go, oh, now I see what I need to fix. Yeah. When I'm doing portraits, he's really good at coming in and going, that eye's too high. Really? Okay. But, you can't see it yourself sometimes. You really do need that feedback. And
too close to it.
Too close. And partly because of my handicap, I don't get up and down a lot either. So I have to force myself to get up and step back and get away from it so that I can actually see what I'm working on. And then I go, oh, that's not right. And can come back to it. Let's see here. Okay. I'm gonna mess this up, I think, Nicholas, but.
Is there plastic? You've got, it looks shiny.
This?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. This is plastic.
No, you're painting.
Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, that would have been weird. Why won't my stuff go on? Thank you.
What kind of plastic is it?
It's you can buy these things at like Hobby Lobby that are envelopes for artwork.
Clear bags.
Clear bags. Yep.
Clean bags?
Clear.
Oh, clear. Thank you.
Oh, just go over there.
Maybe just
Just,
enough.
yeah, I think we can take it off, thanks. I was just gonna try and flip it. Thank you, Derek.
Wow.
Is that better? Yeah. Much? You were like, that looks weird. My apologies. So I purposely left the biggest highlights out because I wanted to kind of be able to see how it changes it. My show in Durango was called Chasing or Searching for Light. And I feel like that's what I do, is I'm always looking for that interplay of light and dark. And our canyons in the Southwest just pop because they do that on their own. But to be able to paint that, sometimes you have to kind of go, that's a little too dark, that's a little too light. The way this prints out, it looks like it's solid white. And I don't think I want to do it that way. Because I don't think that's how it would actually look. We're going to do a little bit of both. Oh, Nicholas, I'm going to screw you up here. Still okay?
Still,
Yeah. Okay. Oh, phew. No babies. You're on call. I am on call. I had to negotiate getting here. Trust me. My mother was an abstract artist, and I used to just tell her, why don't you paint things that people will buy? And I think it was really pretty offensive of me to say those things. But, as a kid, you think, well, I know better than you. My mother went to school at the Art Students League in New York City. She was well trained in the 40s with many, many different abstract women artists at the time. And, I thought I knew better. I was wrong.
from the knowledge of babes.
Right? Or idiots, one of the two. But so payback is what my kids do to me now. They're just
Don't we?
my oldest son is always like, you need to be in a gallery, and I'm like, thanks. I'm doing that. He's like, no, I mean in New York or in Santa Fe, and I'm like, well, I'll get there, son. But right now, we're just trying to figure out how to paint. The rest of it will come when it's time. These highlights really just are that. They're highlights to the rocks. So I'm not trying to get them exact. I'm not trying to go, these have to be perfect. they need to be placed right because the way the sun will hit it will determine how you see these canyons, or this canyon. This is at Lake Powell, by the way.
What are you using?
This is a Terry Ludwig, and so is this little piece, yes, this little piece of real pale yellow.
Do you ever use Rembrandts?
No.
Okay.
I think they're too hard. I like that softness, although I say that, and that's dumb because I will use hard pastel sometimes. You know, pieces that that have a sharp edge that I can do something with. I have to say this, and this is probably not PC. I went to artisans before I came here today. If you're a pastel artist, you need to go in there and say, you know what, you need to amp it up a little bit. They had 2 pieces of paper. 2. I bought them both, so now they have none.
Wow.
But I was like, really? That's it?
That's right.
And the range of pastels that they have and pastel pencils, there's so many out there that are better quality. So I don't live here, I'm not going to make waves, but I think if as a group you can go in there and go, hey, you need to amp this up a bit. Help us out more.
In Santa Fe, they do pretty well.
Yeah, well, it is artisans it's the same
Yeah,
company,
No, I realize that.
So,
But
yeah.
it's interesting how they're so different.
right? They shouldn't be that different.
2 colors of La Carte.
And, you know, who am I to say I don't run an art business? But I think that if you're trying to serve artists, you should at least be sensitive to those things.
In the dark areas of the canyon, did you use black or blue or?
No, I used Terry Ludwig eggplant, which I buy in bulk. They had a sale recently for you buy 7 and you get an 8th one. I bought 2 of them, 2 sets, because I burned through it. It is the only real dark that works. Black flattens.
It's like black with life.
Yeah, it creates depth. It has nuance.
Yes.
And so you can go, okay, I can put this in and it's not just a black shape. There's depth to it. And I love that about it. So I'm looking right in here. I was going to put this highlight in and I'm thinking, I don't like the way this is looking yet. So I'm going to shift that a little bit. Grays are a little bit harder because when you look at grays, they come in cools, they come in warms, and they can muddy something pretty quickly, but rocks have a lot of gray in them. They have a lot of that, and it tones it down so it's not quite like orange. It's subtler, it takes it down a notch, and I like that about it.
when you frame, do you mat or not mat?
I don't mat. I used to do it really different, and recently I've been doing it framing in such a way that there's a French word for it, and I don't know what it is. But it's, I take the painting and a piece of foam core and a piece of glass, all the same size, and I sandwich them together so that the painting is right up against the glass. And then I'll seal that sandwich with tape, with artist tape. And then I can maneuver that and do anything I want with it. It's sealed and it's ready to frame. I can drop that into a frame. If I don't like that frame, I can take it out, put it in a different frame. But then the pastel is secure and I don't have any space. I used to use spacers and then I would end up, I sent a portrait to California one time to be in a show that I'd gotten in the show. I was so excited. It was early. And the woman called me when it got there and she goes, I hate to tell you this, but all of that beautiful black hair, curly black hair, is now all over the front of the painting. What do you want me to do? And I should have just said, send it right back to me. But she put it in the show anyway, and I was so embarrassed about it for a long time, and I thought, I'm never doing that again. Live and learn, right? But that's not a problem with the way I do it now. So I'm happy with that.
Do you buy your frames in bulk, sort of?
Bulk is a relative term.
Small bulk.
Small bulk is a good way to do it. I've invested a lot of money in frames in the last year because of all the shows that I've gotten ready for. But I try to wait for when they're having sales, no shipping. Sometimes if you have them made, they'll cut you a deal. Like King of Frames, it just had a big sale that said, you can, we'll pre-order these frames. It'll take us a month to get them made, but it's cheaper to do it that way than to do them straight off the website. But when I'm in a pinch, and I need to get something done, there's a little frame shop in Farmington that if I hit it right, and it's a Friday afternoon, the last weekend of the month,
With a full moon.
with a full moon, and it's Scorpio, they'll give a 2-to-1 thing. And I've gotten frames from them, but again, they're ready-made frames, and I could just take this sandwiched piece and drop it in. I do all my own framing.
That makes so much sense.
You always use standard size for
I do. This paper makes me crazy because it comes in 12 by 18. Whose idea was that? I have a whole drawer full of 2-inch strips.
They're great for practicing.
They are, and I will play with them that way and do that. Send them to you. Are you doing 2-inch paintings?
No, I use them to test.
Ah, there you go.
Is this the color I want?
Right. I mean, that would make sense. I should just tape one next to it and then just do that.
Do you seal the painting when you finish before you put the glass
No.
against it?
No,
You don't?
I don't.
As it is.
there's something that happens. I don't mind doing that with an underpainting because I know I'm going to add layers on top of that. But there's something that happens when you seal it where the colors change, the texture changes, and the depth changes. And if I'm just doing something matte where I'm just blocking it in, that's fine. But I don't want to do that with the finished piece because I've spent all that time working to get that depth with my values. So No. Short answer, no. So in this painting, this line, which is not really a separate rock, it's just the way that the rock is tucked in there, it's kind of lost in mine. So I'm going to try and brighten that up just a little. So that it pulls it forward just a bit. And then for that to read right, some of that has to be up in here too. Even though it may not be in the photograph, I want it up there. See, that makes a big difference in my mind. I've had people tell me, don't ever touch your painting with your hand. Don't ever mix it around. Don't ever do that. I'm just not capable of not touching it. That's why I wear gloves. Because I want to take that and then bush it a little bit.
How far is your territory for midwifery?
500 square miles.
Whoa.
There's 3 of us, both of whom I trained over the years, and covering from Silverton to Shiprock to Cuba to Pagosa Springs. It's a huge geographical area.
Can't catch a flight.
It's what?
Can't catch a flight to go to the, you have to drive.
I know people are like, it's so far. I'm like, not really. It's just around the corner for me.
Think of all the photo
I was
ops.
just thinking,
I know.
Were you in a boat when you took this picture?
Yes, in a kayak.
Okay.
Because these pencils are nowhere near as soft as the actual pastels I'm using, I'll just kind of get myself oriented with that pencil and then go back in often with a little shard of softer pastel that I have a little bit more control with.
On your photograph, there is no sky there,
That's true.
but you have put in this triangle of light blue that allows all that light to come in
Exactly.
and work. So this was your artist's prerogative?
Yes. Yes. Um, Several of the canyon pieces that I have done, you know, they're just canyons, but I'm like, I just try to connect it to something. And by bringing that little piece of sky in, you go, oh, that's our light source. That's where it comes from. So oftentimes I will do that, even if it's not in the original photograph.
I have to say, I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you. I think you're just a little bit biased, Lenny. um, there are times like up in here where I've used a really light hand, meaning that I just barely skim over the top of the paper. And I do that because that's what gives it that sense of rocks. It gives it texture. Rocks are very rarely smooth. But then when I go back in with like these highlights, I'm using a pretty heavy hand because I'm not probably going to go over the top of that again. The conversation that you were having earlier about signing, these are great. I use a black one and I use a white one, or I use a really sharp pencil, but it's that sharp edge that lets me sign the work. And it seems to work fine for me, so. There's a lot of conversation about whether pastels are paintings or not. I paint a lot on my paintings with a paintbrush. Whether I'm trying to erase something or soften that edge. Most shadows and light, where they intersect, there'll be a little bit, the shadow's cool, there'll be a pop of orange or yellow right near it.
Do you do any plein air sketching?
I tried. I'm not very good at it. Mostly because it's hard to move around, and if the wind comes up and then flips that whole tray of pastel over in the dirt, I just get pissed off and go home. I'm like, I'm done. Now I'm mad. I don't want to do this. So, I would love to figure out a way to do it better. I have friends who do that a lot. This is the strangest thing I've done in a while. Is sit in a room full of people watching me paint. It's really quite odd. Because I'm always by myself, So the choices that you make, you go, I like that. No, I don't really like that. But now there's a whole bunch of people watching me make choices. I'm not sure what to do with myself.
You're like a poet, and we're hanging on your every stroke instead of word.
Aw, that's sweet. Who said that? Did you say that? Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind.
No, but I do think that's what we're waiting for, that stroke that we can pick up on and use. Do you know what I'm saying? You're leading us to it.
We would hope so, anyway.
Do you use any particular air filtration system or anything? For
Oh, no, just lots of fans. Yeah, my family's not very happy with that. They want me to do lots more fans. It doesn't really bother me. If it bothered me, I think I might. But, it doesn't really bother me. I have it all over my face. I have it up in my nose. My cats are all multicolored because they'll come in and roll in it. It's just sort of everywhere. I'm not the most neat painter in the world.
Do you paint most days?
Boy, I have been lately. It's my meditation. It's my yoga. It's my centering. It's my what other words can we put in there? It's the way I relax. It's the way I center myself anymore. I deal with lots of crazy And for me to be able to come home, if I can do it first thing in the morning, even better. But usually it's because I've been out and about and I come home and I'll try and spend a few hours every day at the easel. And it's what brings me back to me. And in that sense, I don't think I'd ever want to stop because it is such a gift to be able to do this. I feel so incredibly fortunate that I can paint and make pretty things, you know. At this point in my life, you know, where I thought, you know, I never even considered doing this before. It would never occurred to me. So to get an opportunity to do it now, at this point in my life, and to have fun and be obsessed and, you know, be able to enjoy it like this is just, to me, such a gift.
Do you feel you get in the zone and you are oblivious to time
Absolutely.
and stuff around you? Just, do you ever come from the easel and wonder where you are? I mean, really, literally turn around and say, "Oh, I realized I was facing that way, or I was in the room here."
I mean, there is a point in time where I'll get up and go, "You've been sitting in one position for 6 hours. That's absurd." Here's a confession. I asked my provider recently. I was like, you know, I do this weird thing where I'm painting away, and then all of a sudden I'm sound asleep. And I'm dreaming that fast. I'm in a completely different world, a completely different. And she goes, "That's called narcolepsy." And I'm like, really? I'm like, it's so strange because I'll just be that fast, literally seconds, I'll be in a different world. Dreaming.
Does that contribute to the painting?
I would hope so, that there's some level of creativity going on in my brain, but then I wake up and I go, well, that's just weird. I didn't know, I was just gone. And I do think that that's from being on call for 44 years, but some of that too is just going, oh, I relax at the easel. I relax and I can be comfortable and my brain goes somewhere else. It's a very odd experience. But I think it's because I just let myself be somebody else there. You know, I don't have to kind of think about it so much.
How many babies have you delivered?
Oh, everybody always wants me to answer that question. After I hit 1,500 many years ago, I quit counting. I thought that was rather a matter of hubris to go, you were number 15 and 1. It just seemed odd to me. So I stopped counting. So I don't know, but it's in the...
Just say 10,000.
Well, it's not that probably many, but it's in the thousands, yeah. You know, how many people get to have 2 amazing careers in their life? You know, I'm pretty fortunate, I gotta tell you.
In a sense, this too is sort of a way of giving birth.
Mm-hmm. Over and over again. Ugh. God, don't tell my clients that. They'll be like, think you do it how many times? Um, but it's that creative process. You know, I've always been creative. I've always had an outlet of one form or another where I could express my creativity. But this is in its probably the purer form that I've had for a long time, and that's why I think I'm addicted to it. Is because I'm just, you know, I'll always be a midwife in my heart, in my spirit, but now I also get to be an artist. And now I walk downtown Durango and meet people and they're like, "Oh, you're Juanita the artist," and I go, "Huh, that's different. That's I yeah," and I kind of love that. That's the blue dark. That's you know, rocks are such fascinating things because not only are all the textures different, you get this degree of color. What? You know, and you get to see it shift and change, and when the light changes, the texture changes. Nicholas has been to my house once. He knows where I live. I live on a canyon, so I have rocks around me all the time. And I love that about it.
Nice little area.
Yeah.
Are you using yellow, white, or a
This-
very light yellow or a white light?
Both. I'm using an off-white. It's more of a cream, real pale cream, and a real pale yellow. And I'm sort of mixing them up a bit. I think that like right here, I put the yellow. I probably would go back in and make that white because I think it's lighter at the top. And then as we get those reflections of the orange down below, it becomes yellower. But you guys made me nervous.
Just ignore.
Right. Sure. I'm not in a room full of artists. You know, imposter syndrome is real. And sometimes I'm like, oh, what am I thinking? And then I just go, you just fake it, keep going, keep thinking, do whatever. Somebody will believe you eventually.
Then no plans of retiring from midwifing.
Well, that's sort of what I'm pushing for, because there's the mind is willing, put it that way. The body just can't quite, I don't have the stamina. I can't go from one birth to the next and be up for 48 hours and then do it again, and so
It can happen that frequently.
it can, and I just, I feel like it's a little bit unfair to my clients to constantly be exhausted. But I'm not quite ready. I'm close. But I'm too stubborn, Nicholas, to give it up completely just yet.
And like surgery, sometimes it's hard to
Uh-huh.
leave it. But it's always kind of an unknown, right? You can run into complications that you didn't expect. Must be a lot of stress.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not dealing with high-risk people. I'm dealing with people that are low-risk, moms and babies and families, and I'm really good at risking people to where they need to be. So, hopefully I have discovered most of, weeded out a lot of those people that might be higher risk. Doesn't always work out that way. There's always an element of surprise, but you try to eliminate that as best as I can. But yeah, there's always been a certain amount of stress, I recently had a Navajo family come to me, and they wanted to have their baby in their cornfield.
Oh, really?
I was like, really? Are you sure? I challenged him on it a lot because I was just like, that's a little nuts.
Did it work out okay?
And it worked out beautifully. At the end of it, I told her, I said, I kind of doubted it, but you pulled it off. You pulled it off, and it was midnight, and she birthed in the cornfield, on a sheepskin.
And were there flash floods?
How did I see? The only request I had was that I could have a chair. I'm not going to get down there on the ground.
Yeah.
Sorry. So they got me a chair, and that worked. And yes, we had lanterns and lots of bugs. But the grandpa came to see us the next day, and just started crying. And I said, "What's going on?" He goes, "This land has been desperate to hear those cries, desperate to hear and feel that sense of family again, and you supported this family to bring it back." And I went, "Yeah, okay, I like what I do." That was pretty amazing.
It's 11:45.
Oh, thank God. Okay, well, that's it. You can see that I've got more of that highlight to do and a little bit of details, but I'm gonna stop
What do you consider your focal point in this piece? Is it the highlights?
It isn't, actually. The highlights will bring you in because they kind of sweep you in, but the focal point is right there.
I agree with you, I just wondered what she thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's not only a distance to drive, but to be able to bring all of this to us is most appreciated.
Well, this was really fun for me. It was a little nerve-wracking, but it was fun. Thank you all very much. If you have any other questions, I'll sit here and put stuff away. You're welcome to come and keep asking questions or check in any way you want. Oh, I was going to get a pic. Wait, before everybody leaves, I need a picture the other way. Yeah, how long was I sitting there? Look at me. That's how I paint.
We have to get you a Pastel Society apron.
Okay.
It still has some.
Really?
I think Gay still has some.
Oh gosh, let's do this. Thanks. You guys are awesome.